Okay, going to show you how to do a photo merge with your panoramic pictures. You'll have some practice images to try it with first, and then you'll have a project where you're actually going to go out and take your own panoramics and then bring them into Photoshop or Lightroom, whichever one you choose, and stitch them together and create your own panorama. So it's a pretty simple process once you get your pictures taken to do this. As long as you've taken them well and everything lines up okay, it's pretty quick. So what you'll do is just go into Photoshop, click File, Automate, because you're telling it to automatically do something, and then click on Photo Merge. So you can go through and click on one of these. I usually just choose automatic unless I'm looking for something specific, but it will automatically stitch your panos together. So the first thing you want to do is browse for your photos. So mine were in my Google Drive, commercial photo, panoramic photography. You're going to download these from Canvas. There's a link that will link you to my Google Drive, and then you can download them from there so they're on your computer. So you'll select all of them and then hit open. And you should see all the photos listed here. Notice that there's 9 of them because these pictures are taken in a portrait aspect ratio instead of landscape. It gives you better detail and definition in your panoramic if you take your pictures vertically instead of horizontally. Down here it says blend image together, so it'll do it automatically for you. Vignette removal, sometimes we get dark circles around the edges of our lenses in our pictures, so that will remove that. I always click this one. Sometimes there's a little bit of distortion that happens, especially in like a 360 pano. And then content aware fill will fill in any gaps in your picture. So I'll show you that too. So we'll click all of those and then hit OK. It does take a minute for it to build the preview and the panorama. So as it's working here, if it'll let me open my layers panel, you'll see all of these layers come together. The reason why I like to do it in Photoshop is because it does split each picture into a layer with a layer mask. So I do have the ability to edit specifically in an area or bring part of the image back or remove something. So if you notice where the marching ants are is actually where it did all the content aware fill. So when my panel was stitched together, the pictures kind of went at an angle, which happens. It's super important that you get your tripod level and you also get the camera ball where you attach your camera level so that the pictures are smooth all the way across. Not the best example, but it still works pretty good. So I'm going to push Command D to get rid of my marching ants. And for the most part, Photoshop did a pretty good job merging this together. A few areas that I'm going to fix would be like right here at the top. You can see it did not patch those together very well. So content aware fill, you just use your lasso tool, and you can drag around this and hit your right click and then click on fill, and from here you can choose what you want to use to fill. Content aware takes a part of the image and tries to fill in that area to make it look natural. It works pretty good. There's also another tool you can use. This is new to Photoshop CC. It hasn't been in other versions. It's an actual content aware move tool. So if you click on that, we can go like this and draw around it. And then there's two things. You can either extend it or you can move it. So if you extend, it will actually extend what's inside there up, which for this case isn't what I want. So we'll undo that. We want to just move it. So, and if you move it, does that? Sorry, I'm thinking of the patch tool. I haven't used this tool a whole lot. So it just moved that pattern. What we should do is actually draw around what we want to cover it up with, and then drag it down here, and then patch it together. There, now I'm thinking correctly. Okay, so I patched in that area. Another tool you could use is the patch tool, where you just draw around here, drag and drop. I use the patch tool probably more than anything. I might clean up that little area. You really want to just scan the whole entire image to make sure there's not little areas like that that need to be fixed. I can see a few right up here at the top, so we'll patch those together. The other thing that bugs me is the road. So the road wouldn't cut off like this. We want to extend the road all the way along that natural line so that it follows. So what I would do here, there's a couple different options. You could clone stamp all of it, or you can use your selection tool. I'm going to select this big chunk of the road and Command C to copy it and Command V to paste it. And all I did was just make a copy of that chunk of the road. And then I can move it down here till we run out of space. That looks good there. And then to blend this together, we can use a layer mask. So all of this is masked together. That's what these black boxes are. A layer mask is just basically putting a mask over the picture or taking it off. So when I click here, I'm going to add my layer mask by clicking that button right there, and then grab my brush. And my brush will then blend those two layers together. So one thing you want to make sure, you can either use black to cover or uncover the mask, or if you push the X key, and I can bring it all back, so it's not deleting it, it's just covering it up or uncovering it. Your opacity and your flow is important, as well as your hardness when you're using a brush to blend. So I always set them at a lower number. 80% is good. That way, as I work across here, we can kind of blend those things together. Sometimes I make my brush really small and kind of do a zigzag pattern so that those layers blend together nicely. And then let's zoom in, make sure our road is right here along the edge. We need to blend that road in there just a little bit. So right here in this example, I brought the grass through, so I'm going to cover that back up. And then what I'll do is actually probably do the patch tool here. When you use the patch tool, you can do a content aware or a normal patch. So let's try content aware. And I want to make sure I'm on the actual layer that has the image on it. Not enough pixels. Oh, let's merge these. So I'm going to merge these two together now. I want to merge just the layers I have selected. So now I should be able to run my patch tool and patch those edges together. And I would probably just do it right here along this line so that we mix those together. Right here I can see I have some grass that needs to be fixed. So same thing, I'll just patch it together. If I want really specific detail, then I would use my clone stamp tool. But overall that looks pretty good. As far as what Photoshop does for you, you used to have to do this by hand and put each picture on the screen and then do your own masking and layering, and it is a pain. So You'll notice in these practice example pictures, let me see if I can make these, they're as large as they get. You'll be able to see them in Canvas. There's a lot of overlap that happens. So when you take panoramics, you don't want to start, oh, my first picture is here, and then I'll start the next one here. I would pick a point like this and make sure, okay, there's my first image right here. I'm going to use this to show an outline. This would be my first picture, and then my second picture would almost overlap 50% of the picture, so that Photoshop has plenty of information to create the panoramic. If you're missing gaps, that's when you end up doing a lot of Photoshop, a lot of clone stamp, and a lot of creating stuff that's not there. So the better you are at overlapping, getting your tripod square and level, it will make this process really easy. So you'll do this practice assignment first, and then I will post your project assignment and what I want you to do there, and have you do a couple different panoramics. And if you have any questions, let me know, and then you'll just upload this to Canvas when you're finished.